Well, hello and welcome. It is time once again to try to fix something, and today on the workbench I have another PS5. I think this is probably the original 1015 version. I have to check and see. And it has a note on it. Disk turns on and off. Not sure what that means. I think this is a power on and off unit though. I've got it plugged in. Let's just see if that's the case. Blue light and off. Yep. A pretty quick one. Press it again, nothing happens. And if I press it again, blue light and off. Okay. And eject. No disk. Off. Okay, so about a 1 second blue light of death, if you will, but okay. I'm not really sure if it's been opened up before. I guess we'll figure that out as we go. Let me start getting some covers off. Well, it actually looks like it may not have been opened. That security seal is still over that hole. This cover looks a little bit loose, but that's about it. But yeah, screws are in it. Excellent. That's a good start. Alright, here we are at the workbench. And this is turned out to be an 1115 model, which is why this is an EDM20 board. So I guessed it was a 1015. I was wrong. So we have an EDM20 board that we hope that we simply have a short of some kind on. That's the best possible scenario, I would say. But it would be a short on a rail that's coming up, after you fully power it on, not a standby one. Let me zero out my leads here. If we're lucky. Where to start? Where to start? We could start on some of these fuses. Just don't think it's going to be that simple. I'm going to go around and hit some of these. Well, that's the 5 volts. No, that's not a problem. I think that's the 5 volts. Hit some of these large inductors around here. 40 ohms on that one. Can't recall. I'll double check that one. I think I do have an EDM20 board to make comparisons to. 40 ohms. Is that the one for the RAM? Let me check up on this RAM. Yeah, 39.5. I think that's going to be right. That's going to be for generating the 1.35. I believe it is for the RAM. Several small DC-DC converters scattered all over this board. Hit a few of these capacitors. Let me turn this board around. Around the HDMI encoder. I don't think we're going to be that lucky either. This board had never been touched, by the way. It was completely sealed and has never been touched. Let's see. Fuse F7003 is good. Here's an F7502. Good. There's an F7501. Although I can't really see where it is. Get a little closer to me. Oh, it's way over here. Ooh. Oh. No, what's that? No, on the fuse, yeah. Yeah, the fuse is good. I wasn't checking it. For a moment, I thought I was checking the ground, and I was not. Fuse is good. No shorts there. Fuse F7502 is good. F7003 is good. These up here are for the Blu-ray, so I don't think they would cause a problem. 5401 and 5402. They would not cause the problem that we're having. But they're all good. Probably not going to be a fun one here. What is our resistance? Let me zero out my leads again on our APU. 5 ohms, and this would be like 0.2 of an ohm here. 0.15. Looks totally normal. That's the 12 volt rail. No problem there. Okay. Let me get another. I'll get another EDM20 out and start making some comparisons. All right, where are we now? Well, after an exhaustive search and much comparison to a working EDM20 board, I have found nothing. No convenient shorts, no obvious missing supply voltages. My APU rails are coming up, approximately 1 volt on these, here, and on these here, approximately 1 volt, and the RAM voltage, 1.37, I think it is 35, 37, something like that, is coming up and going off really quickly. I mean, these rails are coming up and shutting off very quickly. The RAM, actually, I decided to measure it. If you want to know how quickly the RAM comes up and goes back off, 269 milliseconds is how long it goes up to 1.3 something, whatever it was. So the current draw looks correct. As far as the initialization current of like 320, something like that, milliamps looks fine. So yeah. At this point, I'm not sure where to go. I'm thinking this could be a RAM issue. And I say that because I've worked on another one that had a different problem that I suspected was RAM related. And I can tell you, if you take off one of these RAM ICs, which are on the other side of the board, right down there, if you take off one of those RAM ICs, it will turn on and off about that quick. It will give you that blue light and off about the same speed. But I haven't measured it. That's why I was measuring it this time for future reference. But in the PS4, if the APU couldn't talk to its RAM, you get a blue light of death. You get a continuous blue light of death. But on the PS5, from what I've seen, it just gives you that on and right back off. So what I'm contemplating doing is pulling off all. I might as well turn it over, and since we're talking about it, pulling off all these RAM ICs and checking the solder balls underneath, see if I have any, odd gray looking ones, and reballing them. And what I'll do, I think, why not? While the RAM chips are off, I want to check like diode readings to every pad, because we could have an APU problem. This could be a problem up under, with the APU not having connection to the RAM, just a guess. So I should have a diode reading back into the APU if all these paths are good. So it's an extreme measure, but I don't know what else to do at this point. Yeah, that's where we are. Alright, our RAM has been removed and I've cleaned up the circuit board already. And I want to take a look at some of these, the bottom side of some of these RAM ICs with you under the microscope if we could. Get things in focus a little bit better. Let's take a look under the microscope. And I'm not an expert on these things. Some of these pads just look so dull and gray, like they never had solder on them. I guess it's an oxidation. I don't know. I think I've seen people say that this happens when you remove the chip. Those happen, but there's so many of them. This is what I'm hoping is the problem, is that some of these RAM chips were not soldered down properly. I don't know that for sure, but I am trying to find out. I'm taking a risk here, taking a chance, taking all these things off. I will clean them up and reball them, every one of them, and put them back down with leaded solder balls, and we'll just see. It's time consuming, but it needs to be done. And I used this wide tip on my Hacko for the circuit board. Clean up those pads. Flood them. Use leaded solder on there and clean them up real well. But I've done this before. I've used that on these RAM chips before, and it will take the pad right off of the chip. They're rather delicate, so I'm going to be using this little nano pencil I've got here, a little pencil iron with a blade tip on it. A little less heat, a little gentler, and I'll be cleaning them up with that. Getting this stuff off and getting it wicked off, hopefully without destroying these chips. But you can see there's so many of them that have that look to them. So I'm hoping that was my issue, that we just didn't have good connections between the balls on the RAM chips and the main board. That's what I'm hoping for. Alright, here we are back out in the garage. All 8 RAM chips have been removed, reballed with leaded solder, and reinstalled. And now it's time to find out if I have wasted a lot of time. Got a lot of practice in with BGA reballing, but did I waste a whole lot of time doing that? I've got the LED strip is connected, fans connected. I'm not going to worry about the Wi-Fi antennas right now. On, off. Well, that was an utter failure. All that for nothing. That's the way it goes sometimes. At least for me. Alright, I've been sitting there hitting the power button several times just so I could check different voltages, while I was shutting off. And it suddenly decided to turn into a blue light of death now. It's staying on with a continuous flashing blue light. So, not sure how to explain that. But it's just, I don't know, third or fourth time I hit the power button, it decided to stay on. Interesting. Yeah, and now it just started. Okay. Was something still too hot on the board when I tried to bring it up? Because now she's starting up. This is weird.
Branchez votre manette de jeu sur la console à l'aide d'un câble USB, puis appuyez sur la touche PS.
And this thing has never been set up. It's never been set up at all, obviously. And this thing, I don't know if coincidence or not, this particular PS5 came from the same seller that sold me the PS5 that had the power supply, that the transformer in it had never been seated properly, so it could never have worked. This is from that same seller. It seems like it's another PS5 that could have never worked. I don't know, something's up. Well, I shut the console down so I could get the cover back on it so I could have the fan set in here because it was getting pretty hot. It didn't overheat and shut down, but it was getting pretty warm, and I want to push my luck with it. But yeah, I'm installing a game right now off of a disc, and it is acting normal, just fine. So I'm going to let this run for a while and see if it gets a little squirrely or what happens. But at the moment, she's just happy as she can be. Turns on and off just like she should every time. Alright, so where are we now? Of course, it's not stable. It's working, it's turning on now, but it's not stable. It's crashing randomly. But if you remember, it was a beep on, beep off. So reballing that memory has made a difference. So I'm wondering now, what I'm thinking about doing is reflowing the RAM. Maybe I didn't get something down quite right, because it made a difference. Reballing that memory sure made it where it would actually turn on. So maybe I'm going to try reflowing this RAM first, because the next step is probably pulling the APU off and reballing that, which I really don't want to do unless I absolutely have to. But that's where my next attempt is going to be, just to reflow this RAM and try it again. Alright, after reflowing all the RAM ICs, what do we have? We are back to beep on, beep off. Okay. Alright, after reflowing all the RAM ICs, we're back to beep on, beep off. So what's our next step? Our next step, I think, is going to be, I'm going to replace all these RAM ICs with some that I have pulled from a donor and reballed. We're going to replace every one of them and just see. Let's just see. Because beyond that, we're getting a lot more serious. We're talking APU, and I really don't want to get into that if I don't have to. Alright, back out in the garage. All of our RAM has been swapped out. We've gone from Samsung RAM to Micron. I don't know that that should make a difference. They use different brands. But does she work? She stayed on. She stayed on. Fan spinning. Blue light flashing. No video though. Oh, she locked. Okay, we're repairing the storage. Okay, well, this is somewhat of an improvement. Next thing I need to do probably, if she comes on up, is to, put it through its paces. Is it stable? So let me get it on up here. I may have to get the Blu-ray drive put back in it so I can install something. Let me see. I'll install a game. I've got one installed, but I'll need the Blu-ray to play it. and let's just see if she misbehaves. Okay. Let me get the Blu-ray drive hooked up. Well, this one has been running for over an hour. Rock solid. Has not flinched one bit. Totally stable. So I'm thinking our problem was RAM the whole time. And I'm not sure that the other RAM was necessarily bad. I think I had problems getting it soldered down properly. And it's pretty much got to be perfect. I really don't know. There's no easy way of testing that RAM. Not that I've found. But I think this one's going to be good to go. I do have a lot of flux to clean up. I can't put it all back together. There's a ton of flux all over that board from all the removals, reflows, reballs, all that stuff. But I think she's fixed. She's about to go to sleep. Been sitting here so long running. But anyway, I did learn a lot on that one. Learned about the memory and how the memory can give you that single beep on off. That really fast beep on off. That is a possibility on these PS5s. When the memory fails or it can't talk to its RAM, instead of giving you that flashing blue light like you had on the PS4s, seems like you get the quick on off sometimes. So, still learning about these things, so I hope you enjoyed that one. Thought it was somewhat interesting or educational or fun. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And I will see you in the very next repair. So long for now.